whatever it is, a guest is a guest. And so when we kind of work with the team or when we train the team, it's usually linked to the concept of a guest. We don't bring in the cultural concept. The cultural concept only comes in if you have certain challenges, or I would say it comes in the other way around.
Welcome to the Unlocking Cultural Agility podcast, where we bring you insights and stories from some of the most advanced intercultural practitioners working around the world to help you become interculturally agile and succeed in today's culturally complex world. I'm your host, Marco Blankenberg, International Director of KnowledgeWorks, where every day we help individuals and companies achieve relational success in that same complex world. Welcome again to the Unlocking Cultural Agility podcast. And I'm really glad that, Stephanie, that you were able to fly in to join us today live in person. And welcome.
Thank you.
Really good to have you.
It's a pleasure.
And I was trying to think back, when did we first meet? And I think we first connected more deeply on the certificate in intercultural coaching.
Correct.
And that was 2023, right?
I think that was 2023.
Yeah, and at that time you were still in Oman.
Yes.
And then you also joined our high-performing intercultural teaming certification.
Correct.
We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But thank you for joining, and I'm very much looking forward to this conversation.
Me too.
Maybe if you could start off, just tell a little bit more about yourself. Who is Stephanie?
So I'm a new mom. I mentioned I'm an L&D professional, and I'm also a certified coach specializing in intercultural coaching, among many other things. But these are like the three main things that I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
And I have my own podcast.
Excellent.
Which is Journeys by Steph.
And you also have your own business.
Yes,
I
do.
We'll come back to that as well. What about a little bit of history from when you were little? Where did you grow up? Where have you been?
So I was born and raised in Lebanon, but we're British-Lebanese. And then most of my time was in Lebanon. I lived in Oman for quite some time and recently moved to Saudi. But I've also been to a lot of different places, a lot of different countries. It started off as like a passion for traveling and then grew into so much more, which led me to this world.
Right.
But an interesting thing is I had goals to how many countries I wanted to visit, right? This is how it all started.
Oh, wow.
I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to visit 30 countries by the time I'm 30. And so obviously I achieved that and went
Mabruk. Congratulations.
far beyond. But this is a big part of what shaped me and who I am in general. Yeah.
So it almost sounds like you were attracted to different, discovering places, people from a younger age already.
That's true.
Yeah. So if you could just wind back the video and think about when did that start? Is there a place where you were exposed to differences of culture, of ethnicity, of rituals, practices?
I think all of this really kind of started when we were young. Lebanon is a very diverse place, right?
Right.
But still it's kind of separated. However, I think because of my parents, we kind of grew up in a place where we were exposed to everything and everywhere at a very young age. So we did things like celebrate Christmas, for example, and the Eid at the same time.
Right.
We used to go to different areas in Lebanon that maybe not everyone used to go to at a very young age. So my dad lived also in the UK for quite a long time. So there were some of those rituals that were somehow brought in as well.
Yeah.
And so the mindset growing up was, we probably didn't even know the difference in religion until the issues started happening.
Right.
So I think that's when it kind of started in terms of blending in. But then when I went into university, that's when I think I traveled alone for the first time. And that's when it all kind of opened up. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And when you think about the fact you wanted 30 countries in 30 years.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know why I even put that as a goal.
and you said you kept going afterwards.
I did.
So what makes that so attractive?
I think I love the idea of really exploring new places. That's one. I think a part of me likes that in general, not specifically countries, but just exploring new things. Meeting people is something that I love to do. And I consider myself to be someone who loves to take on different things. And I thought of it as an exciting thing to do. So what started off, again, as something fun turned into something that I actually work towards.
Right. Yeah. So what, if I can ask you a coaching question then.
Yes.
What does it do to you? How does it impact you?
It challenges my brain. It challenges my understanding of things. It challenges my judgment. It challenges how I view things. What is my understanding of things, how I grew up to see things, and how understanding the different types of people, cultures, places brings you this awareness of how impactful it is to be raised in a place that's quite different.
Right. Oh, it almost sounds like a little bit of a drug.
Maybe. I don't know. Could be, right? I mean, we all chase something somehow, right? So maybe that's my thing.
Yeah. I can relate to it because I never stopped traveling since the 80s. And I love it.
I think it does become like something that you crave, right?
Yeah. If you're in it, the same place for too long, you say, I
need to do something.
Yeah.
That's true.
Now, it almost seems that desire, that the joy and the adventure of exploring new places, new people, new ways of doing life. You've now been 15 years or so in hospitality. Is that
almost? Yeah.
Yeah. So that move into the hospitality world, how did that come about?
My background is HR, and I kind of randomly ended up in hospitality. It was just an opportunity that presented itself, and I just became part of the hospitality world. So it just kind of went on. When you start in a certain field, you kind of somehow continue. So my career path was quite good, but also, I wouldn't say boring, but I would say it's like a predictable path in a good way, right? I didn't change a lot of industries or move around different fields. It was one field which I continued in, which I consider myself lucky to have done that. Yeah. And I continued in hospitality because it's also a very dynamic industry overall. Yeah.
And when you think about, you sort of drifted into it. It wasn't initially saying, I want to work in hospitality. How has that shifted the way you think about your work, but also the world of hospitality in and of itself?
In general, I think the hospitality world it's a beautiful world because it has everything in it. So all the industries are somehow within the hospitality industry in one way or the other.
Right.
It's just how you're connected to a lot of people. It's a very big world, but also a super, super small world, if that makes sense. And you kind of just grow as you go along.
Yeah. In 23, you ended up joining our certification for coaches. So there's a certificate in intercultural coaching. Yep. And you were at that point in the HR team in a big hotel. So how did you why did you think that was something that would be of value to you? How did you decide to join the program?
Two things, I would say. One, again, the passion for the intercultural world. When this program kind of presented itself, I thought it was, when some things are just meant to be. It was like, oh, that's the program that maybe I've been waiting for, but didn't really know that existed. But two, when it comes to maybe my job or the hospitality world, it helps a lot because we work with so many different nationalities in one place, right? Regardless of the country. But when you work in such an environment, you also want to be able to understand who you're working with. In my role, when it comes to learning and development, you're also working to develop people, right? Whether it's juniors or whether it's the leadership team or C-suite level, so on and so forth. So you always are in a situation where you're sitting in a meeting and you have so many different people. So this is where that role kind of came in, right? To be that person to understand how each one or what each one is bringing to the table and how you can somehow make that connection with everyone to reach the same goal or the company's vision. Yeah,
so it's almost like having an ability to to understand at a deeper level where people are coming from culturally. Now, you know that with our certifications, may it be the general certification, the ICI certification, or the one specifically for coaches like yourself, the certificate in intercultural coaching, we always try to have sort of an inside-out approach. So if it impacts you, it becomes so much easier to then bring it to other people.
True.
So I'm curious, in your case, when you think about the tools that you learned during the certification, the way you were taught to coach using those tools, how has that shifted how you see yourself, maybe even, or your life's journey? Or you said the family's partially Lebanese, partially British. You live in Jeddah at the moment.
Oh, that's another topic on its own.
How has that deeper knowledge impacted you? What does it do to you?
I mean, as any coach or anyone in this kind of field, the first thing you do is you reflect on yourself, right? And you try to build that awareness in order to understand yourself better. And that's still an ongoing journey, right?
I don't think it ever stops.
No, never. You always need it, and you always sit back and reflect. So internally, I think the first thing is I started evaluating my worldviews as a start. We had those assessments that we did together. And so these kind of opened up my eyes to a lot of things, but they also made sense. So I understood. It's kind of like I made the link between what I know I am and at the same time the result that came out. So it was like, okay, that makes sense now that I can label it. So for someone like me, it was very important to be able to label things, and that's what this assessment kind of did in that sense. And then moving forward, it also played a role in the way I coach in general, right? Just to understand maybe where I'm coming from, where my biases lie, or where my judgment is, and then how can I avoid that when I'm dealing with someone, or how can I accept that I have that judgment or I have that bias, for example, right? And another big thing that also played a role internally is that because I'm someone who is generally very flexible, at one point I thought that maybe that wasn't an identity, right? Like, am I being too flexible with things in life? Like, I don't know, let's say a simple example. Oh, do you like pasta or do you like Indian food? Oh, I like both, I don't mind, right? So sometimes that might seem as someone who's indecisive, for example. And I think after taking the certifications, I realized that no, that is part of who I am. And part of who I am is being able to be flexible, right? Because I know what I want and I know what I like, but this is just the way I've come to kind of present myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So taking it from your own discovery into the workplace, what would be an example? I don't know if you can recall a story where either using tools like the 3 colors of worldview or the 12 dimensions of culture or some of the perception management tools where you were able to not just say, now I understand what's going on here, either in the moment or maybe afterwards. Any examples that come to mind?
About myself or about someone else?
Yeah, it could be someone else as well. Yeah.
Okay, I do have an example of someone I used to work with. So she used to be on my team. She's from the Philippines, but she had been in Oman for quite some time, and she's married to an Omani.
Okay.
She had recently joined the learning and development field. She comes from a completely different background. And I remember when we were doing those assessments, I gave her one. And she ended up doing this assessment. And the discovery that came after was very interesting because she worked with an Omani. And so the way they did things or the way they performed were completely different, purely due to their different worldviews or their different perceptions. And once we were having that conversation following the results that she got, it was interesting for her to understand how she does things as one part, but at the same time how she can start maybe dealing with. And she had just started dealing with the leadership team as well.
Okay.
So that was good to see how you can, let's say, she was dealing with a Malaysian person, and then she was also dealing with another Omani person, and she at the same time was dealing with, I think it was a German person at that time. So just to kind of understand how each one thinks was kind of eye-opening for her, but also for me through the coaching.
Right.
So I started discovering how I can also coach people into that intercultural world.
And I think you've brought up two things previously, just talking about the tools like the 3 colors of worldview. They give you a language that maybe you knew it, but you didn't have the language to articulate it. And I think that's what we see over and over again. That's a power of the tools, that it gives the language is neutral, it's non-judgmental. But the other thing in the example you just gave is also that the way we look at it is, not all Germans are the same, not all Malaysians are the
100%.
same. So learning to recognize that we're all unique as cultural human beings. We have connections with being German, being Lebanese, being Dutch, but it doesn't define all of who we are as cultural human beings.
No.
It sounds like the example you just gave, that in hospitality especially, there's not the average Brazilian walking up to the counter.
Oh, no.
It's a person that's your customer.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out very quickly how to come alongside them. So how is that idea of treating every person in your mind as uniquely psychological human being, unique cultural human being, how does that translate into being the best in hospitality?
That's a tricky one. That's a tricky one because you want to treat everyone as uniquely as possible. But you do also have the prejudgment is not the word, but you also have like your kind of, let's say, perception. You have that in the back of your mind, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of what we do is based on analysis and feedback from guests. And most of the time, you do receive a certain set of feedback from the same culture, let's say, right? So I think we use this in a way that helps us understand other people, but also we try to I mean, in the hospitality world, a guest is a guest.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of where they come from, regardless of what they do, regardless of how much they're paying, whether it's them or their company or whatever it is, a guest is a guest.
Yeah.
And so when we kind of work with the team or when we train the team, it's usually linked to the concept of a guest. We don't bring in the cultural concept.
Yeah.
The cultural concept only comes in if you have certain challenges, or I would say it comes in the other way around. So it comes in internally, not towards the guests, but it comes in to understand who your team is, what their culture is, and what you need to do to get them to work with everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Right. So very much when among staff and people working at the facility, but possibly also external stakeholders that you're dealing with. Yeah. And of course, every brand has their own philosophy around how guests should be treated. So that also plays a role, I assume. Yeah.
That's another culture on its own, right?
Right. Yeah. Culture doesn't just happen, it's created, one interaction at a time. The ICI certification empowers you to build safe, resonant spaces where trust grows and people thrive. Become a culture shaper and join the ICI certification at interculturalagility.com. Now, hospitality has always been an intercultural world, inherently because people travel and end up at a hotel or at a resort, but then also more and more in the last 20, 30 years, staffing has become a global game.
Yes.
How would you see the role of being interculturally agile in a hospitality setting? How important is that?
Super important. Really, really super important. One, it gives you a clear vision of how it works. Two, because you do deal with so many different types of people, you're much more agile, right? You're much more flexible, and it becomes easy to navigate through that world, or it becomes easy to deal with all these people. I think the challenge would be how to get everyone to become that agile as well, right?
Yeah.
And when you're working in an organization, everyone can say, oh, I've traveled a lot, for example, or I've worked in so many different places. But working in different places doesn't necessarily mean you're understanding or you're adapting, right? You don't need to change yourself. We keep saying that, but you need to learn how to adapt well enough to get to the middle ground, basically.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the challenge in that sense.
Now, globally, there's been a lot of change happening.
Correct.
Still is today.
Yeah.
We've had COVID, we've got artificial intelligence, we've got new geopolitical challenges. You are in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Saudi is going through a lot of change.
A lot.
How is that impacting your work in the hospitality world?
Hospitality is quite new in Saudi. When we say hospitality, I mean they're recently looking at the 2030 vision when it comes to the tourism sector, right? So you have a lot of new and upcoming hotels opening up within the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But the team is still quite new when it comes to the hospitality industry in general. And so the challenge is, one, getting them to understand how the hospitality industry works when it comes to, the guest perspective, or when it comes to certain standards, because also you're implementing international standards in a local country that probably operates a bit differently. So getting them to understand that concept as a start. And also, there are small examples like maybe the sense of urgency sometimes, right? This is an example that probably exists in other places, but is still quite new in Saudi.
Right.
Because of the shift, I would say, but also because people have a different way of doing things, right, or understanding things. Another concept maybe can be like time. You know, when everyone says, "Oh, okay, you know, the morning meeting is at 9," and you're there by like 8:58, for example, and you're the first one, and everyone comes at like 9, or when everyone says 9, it means maybe 9:10 or 9:15, or so. These are small things that you know you get adapted to, but at the same time, the industry is new, so people are still grasping the concept of how that works, and the country is moving so fast,
Right.
and this is what I noticed over the past couple of months, that I feel the country is moving much faster than maybe the people, just because you need time. Change needs time, right?
Yeah.
And so in order to get people on board with you when it comes to certain concepts like hospitality, that requires time and effort.
Right.
And so it's moving a bit faster than the speed of, you know, a human being, I would say.
And I think that's, you know, something in and of itself that we've seen with countries like Saudi Arabia. Incredible amount of change, incredible amount of investment that changes the fabric of society, literally. Yeah. In hospitality, you already mentioned earlier on, there's a lot of intercultural connection that happens all the time. One of the tools that we use often is the 3 colors of worldview. So is it about doing it right? Is it about doing it in an honorable fashion? Is it about doing it in a way that people feel empowered? The guest is still the guest, but also the authority of the hotel is maintained. Any examples where those 3 colors of worldview either clash, or how you might have maybe handled that in the past?
I want to start by saying, definitely in Saudi, one of the important worldviews is the power, fear worldview, and hierarchy plays a very big role there. Right. However, some interesting things is, one, relationships is what it's all about in Saudi. You know, the concept of connecting with people is so important. So if I have built a connection with you, we have so many cases where, because I know that person in the hotel, I can just pick up the phone, give them a call and say, hey, you know, I would like 2 rooms and I want them now. And now means I'm at the front door. Right. And I'll be there in 2 minutes. And if I'm there in 2 minutes and my room is not ready, I'm going to complain. And we do get a lot of this. And this is one of the challenges that the hotel tends to face. Another challenge would be, you know, the concept of check-in and check-out time, for example, right? It's a standard in a lot of places. You know, check-in is at maybe 2 or 3, check-out is at 12. In Saudi, I know you, so, you know, checkout time is at 12, but at 12 you call me, I'm still enjoying my time. You know, I'm down by 4 p.m. and nothing's wrong. You know, so there's that kind of concept where I don't know if they went outside, would it still be the same? Is it because they're in Saudi and they're used to this kind of culture, this kind of concept, that it's okay? Or is it part of who they are wherever they go?
And that last example, that would pull in the 12 dimensions nicely, because then one of them talks about how we make decisions. Is it based on the rules? So if checkout time is 12, the rule says it's 12. Or is it based on relationship, where, you know, if I know you, we can find a way to make it flex. It's interesting what you mentioned. Would they do it in the same way if they would be outside their country?
I don't know.
And that's a very interesting concept in intercultural work, because we talk about in-group, out-group effect. So the in-group effect, if it's, you know, people from the same country who grew up there, the in-group effect is quite predictable.
That's true.
So if decision-making is more on the relationship side, you can expect in the country that they will try and negotiate for staying longer, or that it's okay. It was 12, but, you know, it's 3 o'clock now.
Not a big deal.
Who cares? The outgroup effect, you never know. Now they leave the country. Are they going to switch to the way it's done over there? Or will they take what they're used to and transplant that And that is fascinating. Nobody actually can predict that, to be honest.
No, but if you think about it from a personal point of view, I'll give an example. Let's say driving, right? Driving in Lebanon is crazy. Well, so is Saudi as well, so with a bit more rules, right?
Yeah.
But driving in Lebanon is crazy. So when we're in Lebanon driving, you drive the way everyone. I'm a crazy driver, right? But as soon as you put me somewhere where the rules are just rules, or you get fines for certain things, like the UAE, for example, then you're following the rules. So also, it depends on the place that you're in and what you feel you're entitled to, maybe.
Yeah.
And what you like the connection that you have with the people, or what you think you're allowed to do in that area versus somewhere else.
But this is a classic example of what you mentioned earlier on, where you naturally are a person who adjusts.
That's true.
You scan the context and you
That's
start
true.
to adjust. So it's something that you anyway do.
Yeah, maybe someone else would get frustrated, for example, going back to Lebanon and driving.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I just kind of go with the flow. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
You can't change that.
One of the things that we often use is we call it the litmus test of the three colors of worldview. So you can't always 100% sure understand where a person culturally is coming from, what are they going to bring into the conversation.
That's true.
So playing it safe and saying, okay, if I at least try to do right by you, if I try to use language that's honorable, and if I don't steal your position of authority, if I don't step on your toes, your roll toes, or what you think you should be getting as a guest, is there a way to use that litmus test to try and do all three at the same time? Are there any examples you could give potentially, or?
I feel like you always need to be aware. I can give a recent example. In Saudi, I was sitting in a restaurant with my husband and my son, and a colleague of mine walks into the restaurant. So we greeted each other, but he didn't approach the table. And I thought, okay, maybe that's fine. A few moments later, I saw him sitting at the table next to us. So then I got up, because that's what I'm used to doing.
Yeah.
And I went there and I greeted him. He said, are you here by yourself? Or it's like, no, my family is with me. I said, okay, so where's your family? He's like, no, they're sitting inside in the
The family section.
Yeah. I don't know, like couches that aren't very maybe seen. And my first reaction was like, why? Like, why is your family sitting alone?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, because I have like my wife and my wife's sister. And so that's where it hit me.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I probably need to say something that doesn't sound too maybe offensive, because I'm not used to something like this. But he was also smart enough to say, that's my culture. This is exactly what he said.
Yeah.
This is my culture.
Yeah.
I said, okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
And is that normal in your culture? This is how it happens. Like, you don't usually sit with your, wife's sister. He's like, no. They sit alone. I'm here, and I'm okay sitting here alone having my meal.
Yeah.
I said, that's interesting. I'm not used to this, but I respect you for saying this.
Yeah.
And that was another eye-opener. Even though I've been in the country for some time, I've met a lot of different people, but this was new to me.
Yeah.
And I think this is where the litmus test somehow came in.
Yeah.
To say, okay, don't say anything that's, might be offensive. Don't say anything that isn't right. Give them the respect that they need, and just kind of, understand the situation.
Yeah. So one thing I want to come back to, you sort of alluded to it earlier on, and in the hospitality world, you have a lot of people who, once they're in, they stay. And they typically move around, different hotels, different countries, different continents. And can easily get to the point. I remember one of my friends who was a GM of multiple hotels, and every time I spoke to him, he had lots of stories to tell about intercultural engagement.
Yeah.
And he was pretty good at it. So he would say, well, formal training, I don't need that. I've 20 plus years behind me. But then it's like, okay, he's really good at it. But
what about the others?
Passing it on.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people who say, no, I've done interculture. I've been an expat for 20, 25 years. I don't need any training. I don't need a coach like you. What would you say to them?
I would say if you probably don't need it, that's one thing. But you knowing it and understanding it doesn't mean your team knows how to deal with you. Right? And if you come in with a lot of experience, it means you're quite agile. But the people you're working with, I think the question that you need to ask yourself is, the people that you're working with, are they also as aware and agile and understanding as you are?
Yeah.
Right? And so when you want to look at it from like a holistic point of view, you shouldn't just be looking at yourself, because at the end of the day, you're working with quite a big team towards a certain goal.
Yeah.
So you might not need all the trainings, but maybe look at some specific trainings that would help people work together, like the high-performing intercultural teams, for example, if not necessarily coaching. And then maybe look at coaching for specific roles, specific key roles of people coming in leadership positions to work with the local culture.
Yeah. And the other thing I've always find is that explaining why you do something is hard. You alluded to it earlier on, especially if you have a lot of experience.
That's true.
And for somebody like that, it just makes sense that this is how you approach your colleague. This is how you approach your guest. But if you can't explain the why, the skill is not transferable.
That's true.
Yeah, and so that's true for sports. That's true for people working in firefighting.
Yeah, everything basically.
It becomes transferable if you can explain the why. And I think that's an important gift, that as an intercultural coach or as a team facilitator using high-performing intercultural teams, being able to pass that on and on and on becomes really important. Yeah. Now, you are also quite, you're not just adventurous in terms of travel, you're also a bit adventurous when it comes to business.
Trying to.
You have an entrepreneurial streak. So tell me a bit more about that. What have you done on the side besides working in hospitality?
I think this was a concept that was always there. The concept of step by step has always been there. And the reason behind it is doing things really one step at a time. So it kind of has like a nice ring to it, basically. Yeah. But what the vision for that is to be able to take everything that I do and kind of pass it on, but in my own way. If I want to say that, right? In my own way or in my own style. And so I still have my full-time job. And at the same time, I'm building that side thing to eventually be able to lean on that, right? Because I do have a lot that I want to bring to the table, develop my own programs or develop my own style. And now it's just like a transition phase between building that and at the same time gaining the knowledge and experience that I need to eventually be able to do it on my own.
Right. And in step by step, what is the main focus at the moment if people want to get in contact with you?
So the main focus is, three main things. One, learning and development consulting. 2, facilitating workshops. And facilitating workshops / team building, of course. And
Yeah.
then 3, the coaching aspect. And the main focus when it comes to coaching is the leadership coaching and the intercultural coaching.
Great.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure that your contact details are in the notes of the podcast. So if people want to reach out to you.
Yeah, of course.
And I assume you're not bound by geography. You're not
No.
just working at South.
No,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of step by step, right?
Yeah.
To eventually venture out globally.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as we wrap up, looking into the future, you already sort of touched on, you will stay in hospitality for the foreseeable future, but at the same
Correct.
time, you're building something that allows you to continue,
Yeah.
even if that happens beyond hospitality.
Correct.
As we wrap up, thinking about the super intercultural world that we live in, having been exposed to certificate in intercultural coaching, the journey you've been on as a human being,
Yes.
what would be a key nugget that you want to leave our listeners with or our viewers with?
I always say this, just, enjoy the new things that come along. Don't change what your beliefs are. And I think that's the most important thing. Do not change your beliefs if you're not convinced. But be open to connecting with people beyond the labels. That would be my input. Because once you remove all those labels, you'd really, really be surprised. And I don't need to say this, everyone knows this, but you'd really be surprised by what comes out from people.
Yeah.
Right? And how connected you can feel to those people without those labels.
Absolutely. And peeling off labels is really hard. So better
Yeah.
to not put them there in the first place.
And we still put them, of course,
Yes.
but just being aware that you
Yeah.
have those labels is important.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Marco.
It's been a joy to have this conversation. And if people want to reach out to you, we'll make sure that they can get in contact with you via the notes in the podcast. So, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Cultural Agility Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with someone. The best way to help us out is by leaving a review on your favorite podcast app or channel, or forward and recommend this podcast to people around you. If any of the topics we discussed today intrigue you, you'll find links to articles discussing them in greater depth in the podcast notes. If you'd like to learn more about getting certified in intercultural intelligence and how you can become more interculturally agile, you can find more information and hundreds of articles at knowledgeworks.com. A special thanks to Jason Carter for composing the music on this podcast and to the whole KnowledgeWorks team for making this podcast a success. Thank you, Shelley Reinhardt, Rajita Raj, Nita Rodriguez, Karen Condon, and special thanks to Matthew Blankenberg for audio production, Rosalind Raj for scheduling, and Caleb Strauss for helping produce this podcast.